Hi, I'm Tim Bradner. Welcome to Capital News. Welcome to Moriarty, the Executive Director of the Alaska Oil and Gas Association. And AOGA, as it's known, is one of the oldest trade associations in the state, and as the oil and gas industry is one of our legacy industries. Uh, Kara, maybe you could talk about a little bit about who AOGA is and what it does.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tim, and thank you for the invitation. It's always great to be on Capitol Views. The Alaska Oil and Gas Association is the professional trade association for the majority of producers, explorers, refineries, and transporters of oil and gas. As you mentioned, we are a fairly old in terms of Alaska terms, trade association, as we were formed in 1966. So we were actually formed before the discovery of Prudhoe Bay because the Cook Inlet discoveries had happened, and then statehood happened, and Cook Inlet was starting to take off. And so, our mission is to advocate for the long-term viability of the oil and gas industry across the state.
And Kara, how many members does AOGA have? You have fewer than you used to. Um,
Yeah, at the heyday of the 80s, when the pipeline was, transporting about 2 million barrels a day, um, we probably had close to 38 or 39 member companies. And of course, since that time, we've had several bust cycles for the industry. And so today we're currently at 14 member companies. Again, we represent long time traditional companies like ExxonMobil that have been in Alaska for, over almost 100 years, actually. And then newer companies like Santos, who is looking to develop Picas. So, we have just a little bit of everything from Alaska's largest producer of ConocoPhillips to some of Alaska's smallest producers like Fury and Glacier.
well, Kara, everybody knows the petroleum industry is a significant supporter of the state's economy and also state revenues. And everybody's concerned about what's going on in the industry. Oil prices are up right now, but that's always uncertain. However, costs are also rising, and that's a certainty for almost everybody in the state. How are things looking now for the industry?
Well, honestly, our industry, like every industry and family in Alaska, was negatively impacted by COVID. And, unfortunately, we're an industry that has, even though prices are higher, and, just the other day actually got over 90 again. I don't know that anyone is forecasting that to stick around. However, we are slower to recover. So we have less jobs today than by the largest percentage, unfortunately, than other industries in Alaska when you compare it to pre-pandemic timeframe of September of 2019. So, obviously, the competition for capital has never been greater, both internally, as you mentioned, because costs are higher, inflation's increasing. The industry was hit very hard globally. So no matter what size of company, there have been constraints internally to try to be more efficient. And then we have a lot of external factors with regulatory decisions by the courts or banks that don't want to invest in the Arctic. So there's a lot of pressure right now to be as cost efficient as possible. The good news that we have in Alaska that never changes is we have amazing rocks, and we have amazing potential and the opportunity to continue to be a supplier of traditional sources of energy, which the demand is not going away. We know the world is in a global transition, but all forecasts demonstrate that we're going to need oil and gas for at least the next 30, 40 years. So the demand's there. We have great supply. We just need to make sure we continue to be a stable environment for investment.
Yeah, and I have a good friend of mine who's a veteran exploration geologist who makes the remark that a lot of these problems are problems that can be solved. But the good thing that we have going for us is the rocks, the geology never changes. It's there and the potential is there. And I guess we're seeing that with new companies like Santos, Oil Search, Repsol here ConocoPhillips is still optimistic about the state. That's really encouraging. ExxonMobil is still here, and I was surprised to you mentioned 100 years. That surprises. That's a surprise
Yeah,
to me.
they were behind some of those initial discoveries at Katala years ago, down in Prince William Sound. They were behind some of that exploration work. It was not commercial. They weren't commercial discoveries at that time. But and you also have amazing companies like Hillcorp. I mean, Hillcorp has come in and have been very bullish in Alaska and have led to actually increases in very old fields, both in Cook Inlet and on the North Slope. So we have a lot going for us. We're very proud to be part of the Alaskan economy. I mean, we're still one of the main drivers of the economy in terms of jobs and revenue for the state. Even in low price and even in the height of the pandemic, we still contributed over $2 billion to state and local governments. And as prices go up, our contribution, if you will, as the Department of Revenue has said, and the legislature knows, they're going to have more money this year because price has gone up.
Well, we're fortunate to have the industry as a stable source of revenue. Of course, we also have the permanent fund now, but we're always going to have that volatility, and it's something that we've got to be careful of to kind of nurture that economic base that we have. Supports a lot of good paying jobs. Is petroleum still the highest paying in the state?
It's my understanding that we are. I haven't seen an updated Department of Revenue number or labor number. But I think it's also important. We're the single largest cash contribution to the permanent fund every year as well. So to grow the permanent fund, you need more production.
Well, and given that we're now dependent on the permanent fund for part of our revenue, that continuing contribution is pretty important also. Well, Kara, thank you for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you again, hopefully down in Juneau.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.